Welcome to the Curious Hearts Collective podcast, here to help you align to life in joyful, creative, and inspiring ways with your host, Vanessa Trufin.
Okay, Angus, I'm so excited that we get to have another conversation today. I
Me
really
too.
look forward to the times where we get to sit down, chat. I know that we create a lot of space for each other to just tap into our wisdom and our gifts and our knowledge. There's a lot of curiosities that come up too, so I'm really grateful that we get to sit down and have a conversation together.
Yeah.
And I
And
know last time we talked about, you mentioned leading from the feminine, and I have been on the edge of my seat, very excited to hear about what that looks like and ways that we can, as women listeners, to tap into that and lead from that place.
Okay, yeah, let's jump into it. So one of the things that I find that a lot of strong women struggle with is they are natural leaders.
Yeah.
Like they're so good in their masculine and they're so good in their business and they're so good in their career, like they're used to leading. But then they come into the relationship and it's like they just want to keep leading, and that it can work for a time, but it almost always ends with them resenting their partner, because when they're leading, he's following. And when he follows, most women do not want to be with a man that they're the leader in the relationship. They actually want somebody to look up to. They want somebody to know that they've thought things through, that they have an idea and a vision, like that they're leading the relationship, both in the small things and in the big things. And so it's a real struggle. And so the feminine version of leading, I call it inspiring. Like the feminine leads by inspiration. He communicates in a way that says, you know what, I would like, or I like this, or I feel like. She starts to communicate through her feelings what would be like something that she wants, what she wants to see and experience. And then she leaves it for the man to figure out the how. And typically, if he's a healthy masculine, he will want to find a way to help her feel good. And so if she's expressed, this sounds good, this would feel good, this would be amazing, whether it's, I want Panda Express for dinner, or I'd like to move to Sedona where I'm at right now. Oh, that's something you'd like? Oh, and then he will get his gears turning on how could we make this happen? Does it make sense? And there's going to be times where he has to say, you know what? I appreciate that, and it doesn't line up with our long-term vision, and here's why, and something like that, where you get to negotiate. But she presents it as an idea that's based in her feelings of what would make her feel good. And the healthy man, it really doesn't take very much to make a healthy man like satisfied in a relationship. If you show him respect and you show him gratitude and appreciation, he will go to the moon for you. And so we had a client who, she really struggled with this because she owns her own coaching practice. She's a boss babe. She's got two kids that she mostly raises by herself. And she's just always in her masculine. She's always doing. And we're coaching her and trying to help her pull back on this. And so we kind of coached her into like how to be more in her feminine. And so in an effort to do that, part of that is asking for help. And I know so many women just bristle at the idea of like, I don't need anybody. I don't want to ask anybody for help. But I promise you, by opening the space to let somebody help you, A, you're moving into your feminine, and B, more masculine, healthy people will start to show up because men find value in their doing. They want to know that they're worth something, that they bring something valuable to the table that requires them to do something. So you get to create the space for them to do that, and they love it. They thrive in it, and they don't burn out. All you need to fuel a man is that appreciation, that consistent appreciation, and he will just keep going. He doesn't burn out like women typically do because they're designed to be more in their masculine than women are. So she had a roommate that was living down in her basement, and she had a guy that she was kind of dating, and she felt like it was her responsibility to, I think she had something every week, like they had a weekly dinner or something. And so I'm like, okay, but you don't have to do it. You can invite them and inspire them to do it. And so she just sent a text message. Hey guys, this week's crazy. I'm not really going to be able to do anything for dinner. Can you guys bring food? And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. And so then dinner comes that night. They both have brought different pieces for the meal. They sit down, they have this great dinner. The two guys get up and do all the dishes, and she afterwards is talking to me. She's like, "But I didn't do anything. I just feel so bad." And I'm like, "Did they have a good time?" Well, yeah. Did you enjoy it? Well, yeah. That's it. Like, you didn't have to do anything. You showed your appreciation, and they were happy to bring it, and they were happy to do the thing. That is her just being uncomfortable in her feminine. She feels like you were talking about last time about, with your business, like, if I'm not doing something, am I bringing any value?
Mm-hmm.
As a female, yes, your being, especially when you're present, when you're radiating your like love and light and goodness, men just want to be in your presence. You are valuable just for who you are. And that doesn't mean that they're like looking at just your outside, your looks. They're not judging.
Right.
The feminine has something in her that men, when she's in that and just radiates that, it's captivating to men. They just want to be in her presence and they want to make her feel good. The healthy masculine is always trying to help her either stay feeling good or get back to feeling good.
Ooh, so many gold nuggets, and you gave me so many different directions where we can take this conversation.
Sure.
And I want to rein it in a bit.
Sure. I went
There's
quite a bit.
Well, I mean, really, I had so many questions and things that popped up, and I didn't hold attachment to them. I just let myself be present so that I could observe and absorb everything that you were saying. And there was yesterday, from right now when we were recording this, was Mother's Day. And I am in California, and I have the opportunity to go and visit two parts of my family. So I have my cousin Karen, who is a single mom, mother of two. She lives in Riverside and works in LA, so she has a commute. So a lot of her time is spent in a car. She leaves at 5 a.m., gets home at 9 p.m. And we've had conversations of masculine and feminine, and she's so used to being in her masculine. She's a single mom of two. She's this sole provider. You can imagine. And then I have my other side of the family. We're all family, but my other side of the family that I visited as well. She's a new mom. Her baby's 5 months old. My aunt, her mom is there as well. And I thought to myself, man, I didn't go to the store. I don't want to show up empty-handed. I don't have flowers to bring. I didn't bake. And when I asked, can I bring anything? Both of them said no, just yourself. And I had this internal dilemma for about a couple of minutes where I felt like me showing up empty-handed was not enough. And I've worked enough in my own healing journey and through coaches like yourself and others to know, okay, hold up, red flag. I feel like me showing up empty-handed is not enough. And I've had so many moments, my brain just paused and brought me evidence of proof to disprove that, of just showing up as myself is enough. So I sat down and I wrote them all a letter, and I showed up, and I didn't show up empty-handed, but I did use my creativity, my wisdom, my words to show up and show them how I view them, how I see them, to inspire them, to motivate them, to help them feel seen.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that because leading through creativity and through femininity, there were times where I had to battle those dilemmas of, it's not enough. It won't be enough if I show up empty-handed. My best friend had a baby, and I wanted to bake cupcakes. I wanted to bring coloring books for her other daughter, and I didn't have the time to do any of that. But I showed up anyway, and that was enough. And asking for support has been one of the biggest challenges that I myself have to face. I was a student in a leadership program that I know that you're really familiar with as well. And this was at a time in my life when I was running my business. And I had a stretch given to me by my coach to connect with other coaches. And one of the coaches said to me, I'm going to give you a challenge. And that challenge is to ask for support from 5 people. And the cringy anxiety that I felt, I was so surprised. I really am. She could have told me to go out and stand naked in the corner and like sell something, and I probably would have felt more comfortable. Maybe an exaggeration, but I would have felt more comfortable doing that than when I heard her words, ask 5 people for support. And immediately I was like, oh my God, no, no, I can't do that.
Right.
And she said, why? And I didn't have an answer for her. I had no idea how to answer that question. And she reminded me that people feel good helping other people, especially people that they love, that they admire, that they care about. If somebody that I loved and cared about came to me and said, I need your support, you bet I would help them. Not only would it bring me joy to support them in whatever endeavor they need help with, but I would feel good about myself too. That that person trusts me enough, loves me enough, loves themselves enough to ask for whatever kind of support that is. So I love that you presence that, because I don't know why it has been such a challenge, not just for myself, but so many women and people to ask for support.
Yeah.
And really what can open up for us when we do that, I, there are no words. There,
Yeah.
just go ahead and give yourself the challenge to ask for support and see what happens. But before
What's
we even get to that point, sorry, I want to hear what you say, and then I want to ask you a question too.
okay.
Let me ask you a question, then I want to hear what you have to
Sure.
say. How do we get connected with ourselves to be even able to identify the areas where we can ask for support and who to ask for that support with? I feel like so often there's a disconnection that happens within the self. And I'm speaking for myself because I've lived through this, and I know that when I feel disconnected, sometimes I'm so overwhelmed that I don't even know where to begin. I don't
Yeah.
even know what help looks like or who to even ask for that level of support.
Yeah. So that's a great question. And it's maybe the hardest question I could imagine facing. Like I was ready for everything. And that one is a tough one. So here's what I'll say. Sometimes it's significantly easier to ask for support from complete strangers than it is to ask for support from people we know. And so you can kind of imagine you've never run any distance in your life, and now your coach is asking you to run a marathon by, these asking five people for help. It's like, I have zero training for this. It's impossible. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not ready to ask five people for five things of real help in your real life right now. But can you intentionally start the practice of asking for little help from little places?
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin Franklin famously talks about the best way to create a good neighbor, like when you move into a neighborhood, is to ask them to help you. Not for you to go be neighborly and ask if you can do something for them, but to just ask for something simple, like ask them for an egg, ask them for a couple of a little bit of salt or sugar, and them helping you actually makes them like you more and want to be part of your life and build a relationship with you. So it's incredibly powerful to give people the opportunity to help you. And I actually think that this ties into so many broken relationships. If you can't ask for help, again, especially for women, if that man like thrives from knowing that he's valuable and doing something for you, but you never ask for help and you don't know how to, you're essentially like kneecapping him. He's essentially emasculated because there's nothing he can do, and doing is the masculine energy. So it's like he'll end up feeling dejected and worthless in this relationship. He'll want out, even if you're an amazing person who has it all together, which I would actually say is probably one of the biggest things for some of these women that we work with. Like they don't need a man, and that's their problem, is that the man needs to be needed in some way. So can you create some space for him to bring some value to you? Now you both win. So let's break it down to like, what are some little things? When you go to the grocery store, even if you're not short, can you ask somebody for something on the top shelf? Can you, when you're in the produce aisle, excuse me, can you just hand me that bundle of kale? Like, you can get the kale. You could wait 12 seconds for him to move out of the way or her to move out of the way. But like, just by asking, they're like, oh, sure. And like, they actually get some like hormone neurochemical shot of like, oh, I helped somebody. That makes people feel good.
Yeah.
You're practicing in a very, like, there's no confrontation. Like you're not creating any expectation of now I have to help you back kind of a thing.
Right.
It's just practicing saying, can you help me with something? And doing those little things, asking a neighbor for help, asking a random grocery store person, those are ways that you can practice it. And then when that's when it gets hard, is like, okay, now my business, I need somebody to build my website and I can't afford to pay them for that. Like, oh, like how do I ask for the help that I really, really need? That's a really difficult thing, but it becomes easier when you've built up some experience of asking for help in little areas. And so I would say start small, just start asking for little things that seem really irrelevant. They actually bless other people, and that will help you build your muscles up for that.
I love that. And I love that you call it a muscle too, because it's like going to the gym. And you're training your body, you're training your muscles. You're not going to have the desired body after one visit to the gym.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the desired balance between your masculine and your feminine energy after one practice. It is a choice that we get to make daily to practice that. And I think for me, it began really slowly, like you said. I have two sisters. I'm the oldest of four. And I grew up with this expectation of I have to be the one to solve it. I have to be the big sister, the provider, the mom, the everything. I am the one that always has the answers. And I started slowly by saying I don't have the capacity to be the same usual on top of it person that I usually am. I want to hang out with you, and I don't have the spoons to be able to plan our event, gather the ingredients, and they were more than happy. They were more than happy to say, oh my God, I've been wanting to try this recipe. I was like, oh my God, wow. And it's that level of proof that I've experienced throughout my life, of those moments where, and I'll say this because I know that I'm not alone in feeling this. It felt like an uncomfortable vulnerability of saying, I need help.
Right.
I need support. And I used to see vulnerability as a weakness many years ago. Now I know that it takes massive amounts of courage to be vulnerable.
Right.
And when I, as a leader, as a woman who has power, who is powerful, who is motivating and inspiring, and I know that I create the permission for others. When I am vulnerable and I show them that it doesn't mean I'm lesser, doesn't take away my value. It just shows that I'm human. And I give them the permission to also be vulnerable and to ask for support. And this is just a reminder to myself when I hear this too. It helps people feel good. It helps me feel good. And they show up. One question that I have for you, and this is a big question, because you've mentioned it twice. Is the healthy masculine is happy to XYZ? How do we, when we're searching for somebody or meeting somebody, identify a man in his healthy masculine?
Gotcha. That's a great question, and it's probably more than we can address here. We have whole workshops that we do on this.
Wonderful.
I don't like the term toxic masculinity, and it's been thrown around so much over the last decade that it's very unhelpful, because what is toxic masculinity? Nobody knows. It's just you kind of know it when you see it. What we like to say is that there are hyper masculine men. Those are kind of like the machismo. Like if you remember Beauty and the Beast, like the Disney Gaston is the hyper masculine, right? Like he's I'm the man kind of, and it's like, okay, bro, like calm down a little bit, like too much, right? And then there's like the hypo masculine, which is kind of like the wimpy, like what do you need? The friend zoned kind of person. Like you're a little brother, you're not a boyfriend material, right? Like, and there's a lot that goes into that, and that we can't get into all of that today, but the hypo and the hyper it's much more helpful to be able to recognize, like, oh, that's not necessarily a healthy masculine. Doesn't mean that it's toxic. It just means like they're not fully developed in this area yet. Like they may still be processing traumas and stuff that maybe it wasn't okay to be masculine in their home, or maybe they decided that they couldn't show up and show any vulnerability, which is like the Gaston kind of thing, right? Like, so there's lots of different variations of it. but also there's hypo and hyper femininity as well. And so it's a great exercise if you ever want to take one of our courses or something, to look and see, oh, where am I showing up not in my healthy feminine? Because I might be showing up super cold or super rigid, which is like a hypo feminine. And then where am I showing up as a doormat? Like I can't use my voice. Now you're hyper feminine, right? So those are just two little line items on big lists of what it looks like to be hyper or hypo, one or the other, or healthy. And so there's definitely a lot there, more than we can get into today. But with that, it is powerful when a woman is healthy and like fully matured in her femininity, and she then attracts that healthy masculine man who's matured in his masculinity, and they're able to kind of like you're talking about, you're going to flow back and forth. Can you build that relationship and communicate through those flows? Like, oh, I need to go get this thing done. Can you support me now? Hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you be the leader right now for me? And being able to communicate around those things instead of, just unconsciously stumbling into them and creating those conflicts. That's kind of what I'm talking about there.
It's that bringing the unconsciousness to the consciousness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it starts with the self is what I'm hearing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
It
If you want
starts
to,
with the self.
if you want to attract that perfect ideal opposite partner to you, whether you're a guy watching and you're trying to attract that feminine, or you're the woman watching trying to attract that healthy masculine, I would always say, and the number one difference that you can do to change your relationships is look at like, how are you showing up? In fact, I can't remember who to give credit to this for, but it was so great. Most of us have this like list of what we're looking for in a partner.
Yeah.
And we teach our clients how to go underneath the list. Like, okay, you have this list of things that are superficial, but like, what are the values underneath it that would make you feel amazing? And so we help quantify what the values are that you're looking for in that ideal partner. And that's really important. But somebody that I was listening to, and I can't remember who to give credit to or for right now, said, have you made the list of all the ways that you're challenging in a relationship? Like when you go on a first date with somebody, could you tell him, hey, these are the ways that I know I don't show up in a healthy way because I react these ways? If you haven't done that inventory on yourself, then you are unconsciously going to be bringing that stuff to the relationship, and he's going to have to deal with it. But if you're conscious of it because you've done that work and gone through that list, and then maybe even gone further than that and actually worked with a coach or a therapist to actually break some of that stuff off. So you don't just have it like, well, I'm just Italian, so I'm just going to tell you how I feel. Like, great. But like, also you could mature and grow up and, be something better than that instead of just using it as an excuse. So that's a great exercise to go through of like, where am I in my being right now? What are the hard parts of me to deal with? Like what makes me hard to love? And then analyze that and see if you can get underneath it and heal that stuff. You'll attract a better partner.
Wonderful advice. That's really great. A point of reflection that, is a little scary, but at the same time, liberating.
Yeah.
I met a guy once who I was interested in. This was many years ago. And his response was, well, that's just the way I am. And I think for a while I accepted that. I didn't know better, and he said, that's just the way I am. And now I'm like, oh, that's icky. No, that makes me uncomfortable. That's a no. And one of the things I realized when I did my own inventory, this was unconsciously, I didn't know that I was doing my own inventory of like, here's the dark side of what I bring, or I don't know how you would want to phrase that. But when I did that inventory, I was really passive. I was so afraid of disrupting the peace, and I say peace in quotations, by communicating how I was feeling, by communicating the things that I didn't enjoy, by communicating the things I wanted, that I was so afraid of communicating that because it would disrupt the peace, not really understanding that it's false peace at that point. If me advocating for myself, enforcing a boundary, asking for support or whatever it was, would disrupt the peace, and it wasn't really peace at all. And there wasn't stability. And that's a muscle that I chose to work on.
you don't even have a real relationship at that point because
Right.
you're not the real you showing up. So the relationship isn't real. And that's something that's really difficult for a lot of people to get their hands on, is that I think that I have to be this person to be in this relationship. It's not a real relationship. It's just a fraud because you're an actor pretending to be something to try and make this thing work. It's
Wow.
not real. So if you don't get real, that relationship is either going to be you stuck in that role of acting for the rest of your life, or you're going to have a major conflict in the future. And so, like for me, I was very similar to you,
Ah.
and I would say I was a chameleon. I'm on
Mm.
the Clifton Strengths Finder like test. My number one strength is adaptability, which is awesome. You can throw me in any environment and I'll figure it out. Problem in relationships, it meant that I could conform to be whatever I needed to be.
Wow.
And the problem with that, the dark side to that strength, is that the adaptive person rarely leads. He's always reactive. So he's not proactive, he's reactive. And as we talked about in some of our earlier talks, most women want a man who sets a vision and sets a course and leads. And if I'm very adaptive, I'm always looking for like, well, what do you think we should do? Oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. Like I was never setting the vision. I was never leading. I was always reacting. And it created massive problems. And at this point, I knew none of what I'm talking about right now. This is all my hindsight going, oh, no wonder I struggled in all these relationships, because I was showing up this way and behaving these ways and creating these problems for myself. So, yes, looking at yourself and figuring that stuff out, being aware, that shifted for me when I met Mayan. Actually, I was going through my second divorce, and I had decided that I would rather people immediately reject me than to go through a 14-year relationship that breaks down, or a 4-year relationship that breaks down,
Mhm.
which is my experience. It was like, I would rather have people just outright be like, you're a loser, I don't want to talk to you. That would hurt less than investing years with people and money and time and everything and losing it. So it was like, so when I met Mayan, I literally was at day one of a conference. I sat down next to her, and she's more of an introvert, where she's like, "Hi, I'm Mayan," and I'm like, "I'm Angus." She's like, "What are you here for?" And I'm like, my life is a mess. I've got 4 kids, 2 ex-wives. My finances are a mess. I still struggle with looking at porn sometimes. Like I just like threw it out there, and I wasn't even interested in her, but I was no longer interested in pretending to be something else, because
Ooh.
I knew I could be accepted for the pretend version of me,
Yeah.
but the real version of me kept getting rejected, and that hurt worse. And I would rather just be rejected outright in the beginning, or accepted for all of who I was instead. And that has been a huge game changer.
Oh my God, that's such wisdom because yes, absolutely. I have somebody in my life right now that's starting to date, and he will be bringing his partner around to meet the family. And I was asking him what some of his fears were, and he's like, I just really, really, really wanted to go well. I really wanted to go well. And I was like, what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? And and I don't think he was expecting that question of what if it doesn't. And I think I grew up fearing the what if it doesn't. I had this desire and attachment to an expectation of I want it to look this way. And sometimes we don't really pause to reflect with, well, am I being authentic in that process? The chameleon. I used to ask myself, who do I need to be? Who do I need to make this work as opposed to does this work for me?
Right.
Am I being authentic in this situation, whether it's a relationship, a partnership, a business, anything? It's really checking in with the self of am I being authentic, and releasing that fear of it being wrong, you being wrong, or not enough. Because really, you're right. It's not even a healthy relationship at that point if
No.
you're just adapting and being a chameleon. And what are some things that you chose to do, actions, ways of being that really helped you be authentic and that you also share with your clients when they're in similar situations?
I think one of the things, and this is probably the worst, like, it's not advice, but the worst news that you can probably expect to hear from me is that when you've had that utter heartbreak, that complete despair, it kind of calluses you, right? Of like, well, I've experienced that level of heartbreak. Like it
Mhm.
can't really get much worse than that. So now, when you come to that place of just like, if you reject me, it can't hurt as bad as I've already hurt. So might as well,
Yeah.
just be real right now. That level of just acceptance that it was like, that's how rough it can be. It can't be worse than that. So I'm just going to go for it. Uh, Coming to that place where you've just accepted there are people who don't like you, or who aren't going to like you.
Right.
You would rather know that now than later. And in fact, I
Yeah.
would actually say, going back to something you just said, when you're so worried about things going right, that sets you up for long-term disappointment. I
Hmm.
know guys that like when they get that first date with this next girl that they're super looking forward to, they take her out to the best places and they plan everything out super well. And it's they'll spend $300 to $500 on that first date. And that's awesome. But that tells you nothing about, can she handle things in the downtimes? Like if you just took her on a picnic, would she like, I'm too good for this? If things go wrong, do you get to see like how he responds? Can she handle a curveball? Can she handle something that goes sideways and she's in there in it with you to solve it with you? Or I can't believe you planned this and you let this go wrong. Like I would rather it go wrong sooner than later
Yeah.
so that I can be like, oh, I'm dodging this train wreck, like let her go, let him go sooner than later. Than everything went perfect for the first 6 months. It's not going to go perfect forever. So when it starts going wrong, how does she respond? How does he respond? Do they take responsibility? Do they own it? Are they good problem solvers? Like, are they providing and protecting for you? Are do you feel like you're in it with them? You need to know that stuff sooner than later instead of, oh, everything went so amazing. It's not always going to be rainbows.
Yeah.
Do you have a partner that you want to be in the fight with? Because there's going to be a fight coming. You need to know who you're teaming up with.
Good point. And even with that, that reflection, am I a good partner? Am I bringing the ego, or am I bringing my authentic self? And none of this chameleon stuff anymore. Like there are so many tools out here, so many coaches, so many podcasts, so many resources that help us identify and reflect within the self. And all it really takes is a bit of curiosity and bravery to be courageous enough to look within and to face the parts within ourselves too, because it's not just about the other person and what they're bringing. It's also about, am I showing up as my authentic self? Am
Yeah.
I being open and honest and vulnerable? Like that, I was asking you what works, and I reflected upon that with myself too. It's the ways that I get to be in those situations is open,
Yeah.
and not in a, I'm gonna word vomit all this information on you. Did it scare you? No, it's just
Please, yes, no. Don't,
you don't do that.
please
It
don't do that.
it's that openness and the vulnerability and the
Yeah.
honesty to
Yeah.
check in with yourself and say, this is who I am, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm searching for, this is what I'm available for or not available for.
Yeah.
And man, does that make a difference.
Yeah. On that note, like I know we're kind of wrapping up for today,
Yeah.
but I'm looking forward to maybe on our next call because you've been asking me a lot of questions and I want to ask you a bunch of questions, especially now that you were talking about you being open and you bringing all these things and you kind of coming into your own. Like I want to get into your vision for the next, this next phase of your life and the
Yeah.
creative part of you and what you're trying to unlock. So maybe on the next call we can jump into that and open up that exciting can of worms.
Yeah, I love how in tune we are sometimes. You said the creative part of you, and I'll leave it with this, and then we can talk about it in the next time. I've declared that this is my creative era. So I love that you said it, tapping into that creative part of you. It's like you knew. How did you know? I don't know. You just knew. But it is my creative era, and I am excited that I get to be the architect of what that looks like, and I get to just check in with myself and be honest. So I'm really excited to answer whatever questions you've prepared for me next time, and to continue to illuminate and talk openly, honestly, and vulnerably about things that really, really matter to the self, to the relationships that we're in, whether they're romantic or not, And I'm forever grateful that we get to create this time together to go there with each other, to share this wisdom, and to open up so many fun avenues for us to be able to share our gifts and our talent with the world. It's amazing.
Wow. It's my pleasure. So yeah, looking forward to it. All right.
Until next time, Angus, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Curious Hearts Collective podcast with your host, Vanessa Trufin. Don't forget to check out any of the resources mentioned in today's episode in the show notes down below.